You know, Yahtzee, I don't think you've ever given the new console generation a fair chance. What do you mean? When I get together with the X-Bone and the Piss Poor and rhythmically smash their heads together while screaming, "Why are you holding us all back, you bastards, you bastards, you bastards," they could change my mind in an instant. All they have to do is explode and stop blighting the universe with their presence. It's always been the lack of backwards compatibility and the utterly callous disregard for gaming history that gobs in my porridge. It's like they burnt the house down for the insurance money and then spent it all on an overpriced chrome refrigerator to live in instead. And it leads to awkward situations like the one Insomniac Games found themselves in, with a movie of their long-running Ratchet & Clank series in the wings. They must have jolted awake one morning and gone, all the games were exclusive at PS2 and PS3, so all our new fans who come in from the movie with shining eyes and fat wallets can't buy any of the fucking things without a time-travelling pirate ship. We'd better slap something together for the PS4, sharpish, which was quite an impressively long statement for every single member of a dev studio to make in unison. So now we have the inevitable reboot with same name, Ratchet & Clank. And this is new ground for me. The series has passed me by up to now because I'm not a nickel baby boo-boo who wants to play games about fuzzy animal characters with a permanent case of DreamWorks eyebrow. I didn't even know there was a film coming out till the game discreetly mentioned it, immediately, at full volume, and then twice more on the box blurb. But the same box blurb promises that the game is equally enchanting for both fans and newcomers to the series, so that's alright then. Ratchet & Clank is representative of the ever-unspecific action-adventure genre, a cartoon sci-fi knockabout that's like The Fifth Element had a baby with Bucky O'Hare after spending a little bit too much time hanging around dodgy internet communities. An evil organisation plots to unleash an army of killbots on the galaxy, but a reject killbot, that's Clank, escapes and crash lands in the back garden of a fuzzy and highly marketable wannabe space hero. That's Ratchet. Ratchet agrees to fly Clank to the big city planet so he can warn them about the incoming invasion, and by the time they get there the invasion's already started, so much for that. Note that this leaves Ratchet and Clank with precisely zero purpose or particular reason to stay together. I've had longer taxi rides and didn't end up forming lifelong partnerships with the driver, and I suppose this is the inherent problem with an attempt to swiftly re-establish the canon of the previous 47 games in one go, that we seem to be skipping quite a few steps. The bond between the two leads is treated as something automatic and preordained, not least of which by the fucking title of the game, rather than developing naturally over time. I'm willing to bet that that was more the case in the original Ratchet & Clank because people liked that game, and we would not now be getting a film if people hadn't liked it. Thus is exposed the inherent paradox of this reboot. Explain to me the logic of a reboot attempting to bank on nostalgia for the very games it is attempting to erase from canon. It constantly references the old series. There's even a side quest around collecting trading cards of characters and weapons from previous games. So essentially the game is saying, hey, remember how much better we did this the first time around? Good, now forget all about it. Speaking as a newcomer, without the context of the established canon, Ratchet's a boring little shit. The term Mary Sue comes to mind like the face of an irritating relative. The perceived need to hurry the plot along means that he's barely got his trousers on before he's getting hailed as a galactic hero and everyone wants to be his friend, except for the one guy who betrays him for literally no reason, except that he's jealous of how totally bloody great he is. I really got a sense that the character was facing adversity. There's one scene after the villains blow up a planet where Ratchet immediately runs home blubbing because he failed one fucking thing in his glittering 3-hour career, and that lasts for all of a 15-second cutscene before he gets back in the saddle. Incidentally, after the planet explodes, there's a rather hasty line of dialogue to the effect, "Lucky the entire planet was evacuated in the 14 minutes of advance notice we were given," which screams last-minute change to me. What made you chicken out of depicting implied genocide, lads? Were you afraid the Kiddywinks would be influenced into building planetary death ray cannons? So about that gameplay, it's third-person action-adventure with a little bit of everything. Bit of combat, bit of platforming, bit of puzzles. A surprisingly faithful callback to the era of the original game in the PS2. Still, to my mind, the high watermark for consoles, and may my nudges get slammed in a car door if 'tisn't so. It made me slightly nostalgic for games like Psychonauts and every single 3D game Rare ever made. What really surprised me was how difficult the game could get. Have we become so softened by the ongoing blandification of AAA games that smash the autosave button like it's a virgin bumhole in a prison shower that we can be thrown by perfectly straightforward combat mechanics? I really start to miss the concept of dodge rolling when I see an enemy bullet closing in and my best defense is hoping that I'm already moving out of the way. Mind you, there are some things that stopped being prevalent for a reason, such as interrupting your shooty platformer for a difficult 5-minute laser directing puzzle that brings the pace to a screeching halt. Thankfully there's the option to skip those, but not without admonishment. Are you sure you'll never get the achievement and gain true fulfillment in life? Weapon variety is the big selling point, and varied they certainly are if leaning a bit too hard on the wacky humour, like the gun that rather inefficiently turns enemies into sheep that just doesn't have the lasting humour value of that gun in Painkiller that pins enemies to walls and makes all their arms and legs fall off. I don't like how weapons level up with use, because it results in the scenario wherein after working long and hard to max out a weapon, suddenly you don't want to use it anymore, because you don't want to waste the experience when your butane-powered dogshit cannon doesn't yet have the diarrhea bonus. All in all though, there are certainly worse distractions on the road to the grave, but the quality of Ratchet & Clank in itself is almost made meaningless by the circumstances surrounding it. If you were already a fan, then I'm all but certain you'll have played better ones, and if you weren't, and you do like the game, then where do you go from there? Gosh, I'd quite like to play the rest of the series now. Well, you can't. Hardy ha ha. Film coming to cinema near you. So working our way back to where we already were before you fucked it all up is what you call progress, is it, consoles? No, it's what we call let's buy another yacht.